to give the cabinet a rating for its performance, what would it be? Well, it's unlikely to be a favourable one. From Blame Me on Apartheid author Thamsanqa Malinga. He says the cabinet has effectively gone AWOL. Malinga points out that South Africa's cabinet is twice the size that of in a developed country like Germany. But, he says, ministers produce a fraction of the work when compared with their peers. Malinga joins me now to unpack this further. Very interesting insights that you have there, Thamsanqa. And of course, over the last few years, there's been quite the degeneration of active participation of cabinet members within the country.
Good morning, Rofhiwa, and good morning to the viewers at home. Yes, there has been quite what I can say, a lack of a production. I'm just running out of a word here. There's a lack of productivity in our cabinet as it stands, and to an extent that if this cabinet were to be a corporate board or corporate executives, most of them would be probably without jobs because of the way in terms of they deliver. Or lack thereof, So I've actually gone on to tick a register, to call on their names to say where are they, and most of them, honestly, in all of them, in my opinion, have just abandoned ship. So to speak. There is dereliction of duty within the cabinet itself. And the worst thing is that if you look at the cabinet is only the ministers, not the deputies. Now you get a further extension with deputy ministers that no one knows what their role is, other than the fact that they seem to be bag carriers or ball carriers, so to speak.
What do you think is the big reason for the complacency that we are seeing within our cabinet at the moment, Thamsanqa? I mean, is it an issue of the separation or the inability to separate the state from the party, cadre deployment? What would you say are some of the major reasons here?
The two major reasons in terms of that. One, it's the lack of expertise. The expertise in the ministry, normally that is the requirement of when you appoint a director general. So when you appoint a minister, you do not need someone with certain expertise in that sector. You can just appoint a minister, hence it's easy to do reshuffles and all of that. So one is lack of expertise. You can just put in any person as a minister in any portfolio. And because then the expertise, the one that you'd need for someone to run an office, that would then be cascaded to the director general. And you look at that, we're skipping the deputy minister again. So the director general is the one who would probably need to have a certain level of education, a certain level of experience within the public sector, So one, you have a minister who is not a subject matter expert. And secondly, it is also the issue of the party that is failing to separate itself from government. The ANC as a party has created a sort of a job creation scheme for ministers, whereby a president cannot even, reshuffle. I'll give an example right now. We're busy with hearing about ANC's factions towards their December conference. Do you think that the president will do any reshuffling between now and December? That would be suicidal for him, because if he does any reshuffling, then it means he is likely pushing whoever that is taken out of the cabinet into a faction that will then say he must not be re-elected in December. So now we're seeing the party politics are coming into play also in terms of ministers, deadwood ministers being kept in portfolios. One, you cannot be touched, because if you touch them, then it means they are going to campaign against you. So you sit with deadwood ministers, and that is now cascading to delivery in terms of the portfolio to us as the electorate. Do we get the best of service? No, because a deadwood minister is sitting there that the president is afraid of taking out, because that minister will jump ship and move into another slate within his party that now becomes, a slate that wants him out. So it's both, Rofhiwa, the issue of skills and the issue of partisan politics.
Would you say there that this lack of expertise and really just the culture that has culminated within the ANC and the government over the last few years is leading to the advent of the creation of Operation Dudula, as an example, where you're finding that citizens are increasingly starting to take things into their own hands?
Very much, very much. The absence of leadership at ministerial level in terms of the portfolios has given has created that opportunity for populists to take up the spaces. If we go back, for example, with the issue of the EFF going to Mall of Africa and doing what they call site visits, that was because of the absence of the Minister of Labour and his department. No labour inspectors had been going to various companies. So then the EFF took up that opportunity. And you'll remember, after the EFF did that, 2 days after that, the minister was on the news to say, oh, no, you can't do that, but that is the role of my department. But where was he all along? So his absence gave opportunity for the EFF. The absence of Minister of Police and others going back to labor and employment and foreign affairs, that not foreign affairs, home affairs actually, has given rise to populists like your Operation Dudula, who are now going into that space and saying, oh, we are doing oversight, or we are getting rid of this, or we are getting companies to actually conform to labor laws. But that is actually the work of the minister, who's supposed to make sure that his department carries that out. But because they are not there, because they are missing in action, so populists are now starting to get into those spaces. And by doing such, they are just now, it snowballs. They become these saviors overnight. They become these untouchables.
This is a difficult question because when you think about it, you think there probably isn't really an answer. But in the immediate to the medium term, Thamsanqa, what can be done, if anything?
What we need to do is to actually bring in reforms in terms of how our cabinet and the supporting structure of the cabinet is put together. Countries like Kenya have been able to do that. Kenya has been able to say, one, we're doing away with deputy ministers, and two, we are capping the number of ministries. So we need to do that. I mean, we are going into elections next year, so it's quite easy to start saying, as from 2024, we are capping the number of ministers, we are doing away with deputy ministries. Because if in the Constitution itself, Section 93 of the Constitution, it says that the president may appoint deputy ministers. So that tells you that even those who wrote the Constitution were not seeing a particular need for deputy ministers. Hence, they said the president may. So he has a prerogative in this instance to say, I am doing away with deputy ministries, and I'm going to cap my cabinet to what is important. And from there on, it then starts the issue of putting KPIs. But we are having a whole lot of people that are sitting there and just doing nothing.
And of course, through corrupt means, using taxpayers' money for nefarious activities. Thank you very much for your time this morning. That was Thamsanqa Malinga, who's the author of Blame Me on Apartheid.